Let's see. Hey, what's up, Ellie? Everyone should go back. Hey, in a way, a lot of people agree with that. A lot of people agree with that. Daisy, a lot of people would say yes to it, especially viewing Leon in the last few videos has been treacherous for a lot of people. Yeah, you know what it is? Everyone makes mistakes. People act like, they're like some perfect individual in an imperfect well, right? It's an imperfect well, and nobody is perfect. And Leon, if he has the opportunity to go back, I would think that would be best for him because he's surrounded by a lot of girls and he doesn't have a male influence. Why did Jalea tell her mom that? Are you speaking on allegations, Ellie? Let me see here. UP House. CJ on 32 took CJ So Cool whole swag. Yeah, 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 definitely. CJ on 32's, you gotta understand something. He mirrored his whole image after CJ. So, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of comparisons between the two. And it's just sad that I feel like when somebody puts you on like that, you should definitely pay homage and keep it one. I don't really, to be honest with you, Ellie, I don't even think it was just Jalea. I think it was royalty coming up with it and with a collective effort. I don't think it just was one individual. I don't think it just was Jalea saying it out of nowhere. I think it was just a plethora of situations that occurred that led up to that whole situation. Because when you look at it in totality, it it comes from a nefarious place. And I feel like when people weaponize, my whole issue was from the beginning was people weaponizing what they go through. And if you weaponize it, it comes off disingenuous. And if it comes off disingenuous, a lot of people gonna fail to believe you. They're not gonna believe it. And I think what swayed people to really start looking at it from an unbiased perspective was when especially when CJ on 32s got involved. When CJ on 32s got involved and they was fighting, that's like in that last video. If you watch the video I posted like a day ago, you even hear CJ on 32s himself say, when you in a fight, you gonna throw anything out there. And he said he was playing dirty. He felt like CJ So Cool was playing dirty. So he started playing dirty. But I did royalty not save any money? Let me tell you something that's crazy. A lot of people believe the same thing and will say the same thing you're saying. Why, after all these years, she didn't like stockpile money? I mean, you could have been just throwing money in the bank, just saving it, just putting money here, money there, in this account, that account. You could have had accounts that he didn't even know about. That's the weird thing. I blame C. John 32s because when he got involved, he kind of made it escalate to a whole new level. That's what made it crazy. escalated to a whole new level. So that's what happened. But when you think about it, royalty did her kids a disservice by not saving money, by not planning for the future. That's where that whole debacle came from. If she would have planned for the future, for a potential breakup, everything would have been good. But she decided to just jump off the rails. And the weird thing about it is people are always saying bad shit about CJ. Don't get me wrong, I think CJ is a habitual liar. I think he does a lot of things that are just inconsistent in nature. I think he's unstable at times. And just like royalty is unstable at times. I believe them together made a good group partnership as a whole. But when they're separate from each other, you can see how they have their shortcomings on each side. Everyone has their shortcomings in that group. That's the crazy thing. Jalea should say sorry. Now, I don't think, like I told you before, Ellie, I don't think Jalea was the one that presented it to royalty. I believe royalty planted the idea, and that's where it came from. I believe royalty planted the idea, and then it kind of stemmed from there. Royalty literally could have bought a 3-bedroom house and a good car area, money. Yeah, exactly. She could have. You not only her, but CJ could have did the same thing. CJ could have bought property. I don't understand why people paying $12,000 a month, like CJ, or people that have money, and you're literally renting. Why are you renting and leasing houses when you got all that money? You could fix your credit and buy property. Why are you leasing? That's the oddest thing to me. Like, I just feel like, a lot of these people that's on YouTube that make a decent amount of money, they tend not to know what to do with it when they actually have it. You can literally buy property, buy condos. You can do this, that, and the third, but you'll rather rent. And then when all your money is dissipated, your ass is going to be completely assed out. And that's a sad thing. But I think Leon would do better in an environment with an individual who he called his father. Because 9 times out of 10, when you look at royalty situation, having 3 kids with a man that all the kids have her last name. I mean, his last name. All the kids have his last name, but they don't even know where he is. They can't speak to their biological father at all. And that is just a crazy situation to me. You mean to tell me they all have his last name, but they can't even speak to him on the phone? Hey, what's up, Sophie? When they teach you provided a safe place for Leon to talk or having to worry about his business all over the internet. That's true. He did provide a safe place. And remember, Leon was more comfortable with CJ. You notice that he's completely in his shell. He doesn't really speak anymore. He keeps his hair in front of his face. He covers it up. He don't really want people to see him anymore. And that's a sign of trying to disassociate yourself with reality. A lot of times when you see people do that, they're trying to close themselves off, become antisocial. And that's what's going on with Leon. He's very antisocial at this point. Do you remember before that how Leon's demeanor changed after CJ started hanging out with? Oh yeah, of course. If you remember, Leon used to be always, the kid that was more in the background with, Jalea, with Nation. But when CJ started taking him to the gym, CJ started doing this and the third. That's when people started realizing that, damn, you know what? CJ's hanging out with Leon more. Now he's at the gym, he's talking, his swag is going up. His personality started to shine. And then now that you see when the separation occurred, Leon's in the background again, but not just in the background. He's way in the background. I mean, literally, the girls are just in the forefront, and he's being pushed to the back. And that is not a good sign because as a male, you should be dominant. You should be in the front. You should be showing signs of a leader, not an individual that's hiding behind people. He doesn't even want to speak. He doesn't even want to give his opinion on the matter. And that's where I feel like he needs to be around another male, especially somebody who he called father for years. Literally, he called father for years. All right, let's see. When I started, I mean, Kamari is she came back and she started going in. She started going in. I mean, I believe she hyped her father up. She really did. She said, "You know what? I don't even know why you taking it. when Leon started being reserved, I think. Nah, Leon didn't actually. Nah, Sophie, if you really go back and watch the videos. Now, towards the end, remember Leon started hanging out with CJ more towards the end of Royalties and CJ's relationship. So obviously, if you're hanging out more with CJ and you don't want to be involved in all the nonsense, you're gonna disassociate yourself with the drama. That was everyone, to be honest with you, not just Leon. Everyone started disassociating themselves with the drama in the end. Nobody wanted to be a part of it. But then Nation and Jalea were more involved. That's why in the videos that CJ is releasing, you're seeing Jalea and you're seeing Nation talking on the same level as CJ So Cool and their mother. A child should never speak to an adult on the same level. And that shows a lot of just like disobedience and rebellion against your parents, especially somebody who's feeding you, who's putting food on the table. I don't give a damn. Even people used to tell you back in the day, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Come on, switch up. Yeah. I mean, shit. Everybody, money will make a lot of people do a lot of shit. If you think about it, money will make people do a lot of shit. That CJ So Cool's mom is an individual that was struggling. Whatever she Whenever she needed any type of help, CJ was sending her money. What happens towards the end when she tried to use the shooting situation when he got shot and all that, she was trying to use that as a way to monetize and do this and the third. CJ wasn't feeling that. So he started distancing himself again from her. When he started distancing himself from her, that's when she started feeling like, damn, my son don't even want me around no more. So now she's been going online and talk shit. Every family member that I have, you have, anyone else have, will talk shit about you. All families have disputes. Every last family has disputes. It's just that your family ain't online. But I guarantee when you get in a fight with your brother, when you get in a fight with your sister, when you get in a fight with your mother, they're not online talking shit as if you don't broadcast your life. You're not a YouTuber, so you're not finna be filming everything. When you're a YouTuber, everybody get to see every fight that you have with your mom, that you have with your father, that you have with your brother, that you have with your sister. Everybody gets to see it. Turn it on. Let me see. I watched my father hit my mom multiple times. Last time, I jumped in. Hey, Trey, look. Hey. Now, if you're viewing as a kid, now that's dysfunctional. And that can cause a lot of trauma. That's why when you grow up, the relationships, you tend not to trust people. You tend not to let your guard down easy. But one thing I can say about this, in those type of situations, when it comes down to CJ So Cool and the So Cool kids, if you look at what CJ is posting, there is no video. Think about it. Every woman, if you're dealing with an abusive person, I don't care if it's a woman or man, you will always have footage. Always. This is going to be a sign of that person doing this. So you're going to show bruises. If you don't even have the evidence of them physically hitting you, you will have the aftermath of the bruises. You will have a scar, a scratch. You will show your eye. You will show this, that, and third. It will always be signs of abuse. I don't care who it is. If somebody is abusive, there will always be signs. Royalty cannot post signs of abuse from CJ. But CJ is posting videos of a royalty. But I think people don't want to see what's actually in front of them. They want to create their own narrative. She started multiple times that he treated them like, nah, he didn't. Because if he treated them like Joe Jackson, I don't know if people know who Joe Jackson is, really. But Joe Jackson was nothing to play with. CJ ain't even close to a Joe Jackson. He don't even have the ability to even come close to Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson would make CJ So Cool look like a straight up loser, like a lame. He don't have the ability to be Joe Jackson. That's like on the level of Ike Turner. Nah, Joe Jackson and Ike Turner's on the same level. If you want to look up Ike Turner, look up Ike Turner, Tina Turner, ex-husband. Look up him, and then you will see what Joe Jackson was. And Joe Jackson was a little bit worse than Ike Turner. CJ So Cool don't stand close. He don't even have the ability to do that. My mother showed no signs of. No, let me tell you something. If your mom showed no signs of abuse, and you talking about physical abuse, that's what you're saying? Physical abuse? Because that wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any logical sense if you're saying that your mom showed no signs of physical abuse. That doesn't even make logical sense, 'cause if your mom was getting beat by your father, she would have bruises on her body. She would have taken video. There will be pictures. Yeah, hey, you know what? CJ is a joke. There's no physical evidence of that, and his brother didn't even say it. See, I think sometimes when we hear people talk and say certain things, where's the physical evidence? We don't have no evidence. All we got is him saying something and then somebody not even confirming and not even backing it up. You got somebody saying something, but where is the evidence? Where's the validity? Where's the truth to it? Because a lot of people can say a shitload of things, but there's no truth. Well, verbally is one thing, but you're saying verbally and physically. That's duality. And you're speaking on duality. If you're speaking on duality, it should still be signs of physical abuse. So that's straying away from what I was saying. When I'm talking to you, Trey, I'm saying that your mom, there should actually still be physical evidence of physical abuse. You're talking about physical abuse, that's something different. And to be honest with you, physical abuse varies depending on the person's perspective in life and how they grew up. Because you can be in an environment with people that just talk a certain way, and that can be your norm. Some people normalize erratic behavior, perverse behavior, but a lot of people think abuse in certain manners is different from somebody else's abuse. It just depends on where you're from culturally and other aspects of life. But you need to feed her kids. I'm all hey, let me tell you something. I just think let me tell you the wildest thing about the situation is with Royalty is she left CJ, right? And you saying that the dude was cheating, this, that, and the third. That's true, but he been cheating from the beginning. If you think about it, he been cheating from the beginning, even before she had the twins. She had a lot of situations with CJ so cool with cheating. So once you have the children and once you have the twins, nothing was going to change. And on top of that, he paid like what $50,000 to have the twins, and then he wasn't going to stop cheating. He wasn't going to stop messing with women. The crazy thing is you leave CJ and then you get with Rico, an individual that believes in polygamy, an individual that believes in marrying multiple people. Hey Daisy, an individual that believes in having a girlfriend, wife, etc. And it's not even good for your kids. He ruined his whole football career. I think a lot of people ignore that just because they have an issue with this person over here. I don't give a damn about either or. I look at truth. I'm just reacting to these people and I see things for what it is. What will happen when the twins go to school and are weak? She had no child. Hey, like I said before, the good thing about it is CJ is supplying the kids the twins with more than enough. He's able to have them week on and week off, which is a lot more than a lot of other fathers have. Some fathers only got every other weekend. He got a whole week, which is great. He gets to take care of his kids, and still into them. And he still sends Royalty money. Remember, you're watching the video, he still sends Royalty money. He don't send her enough money for the rest of her kids, but he sends money for the twins. That's not appropriate. Hey, you know what? If you're in an environment where things are susceptible, remember, children naturally have, malicious type of intent sometimes. When you look at kids, if they play together, you'll notice that kids tend to be physical with each other or try to see who's more dominant. That's natural with kids. If you have children, you're gonna know that. But the thing is, if you're around an environment where kids are left to their own devices, then that's going to be an issue because now they're able to act out certain things without being, disciplined, without being told that you shouldn't do that, and you need to, refrain from that type of behavior. That's a whole nother aspect. Now, Leon, maybe acting like so what for her kids. Hey, like I said before, I don't know what she doing for her kids in terms of she says she don't believe in school. But it's weird when she says she don't believe in school, Royalty dropped out. I think around like what ninth grade or 10th grade. And that's to me is not a good way of presenting it to your children, especially when they're becoming antisocial. When you look at somebody like Leon, that's a cry for help. And if anybody is okay with him acting that way, that means that you're okay with somebody plummeting in the darkness and you don't want them to elevate. You don't want them to ever strive in life to be something greater. Leon should never be in that position to be looking like that and covering himself up when he's supposed to be a young man. That is not good. Now Royalty has an apartment, uh, and so apparently she has a two-bedroom apartment, or she's staying with her mom. Either or, she's just staying with her mom. That's why she doesn't shoot no videos outside of a wall. If you notice, every video Royalty shoots is a white wall behind her. And if you have a white wall behind you every video, that means you're not showing the rest of your house. You should be able to show it. That's your shit. You pay for it. Who cares? Why just keep showing the same wall over and over again? Because that means that you either stay with people and you got to stay within the confines of the room or where you at. She lives with her mom. Yeah, she lives with her mom. Exactly. She stays with her mom in a two-bedroom apartment, something like that, which is not good. She got all those kids, and they over here, they're, sharing the same bed and all that shit. It's not gonna be comfortable, especially if you came from an environment where CJ So Cool had them in their own rooms, their own et cetera. It's just not a good thing. It's not a good look to me when your kids came from a life of abundance to being limited and things being scarce around them. It's not a good look. I just think that is wild. But in terms of Leon going back to CJ, I think it will benefit him. I think he'll be able to express himself a lot more. If you look at, the proof is in the videos. Just look at the videos. If you notice, he always spoke more when he was around CJ. So Cool. He always was able to be more open. Now he's introverted. He doesn't speak, and if he does speak, it's very low, and it sounds like he's emasculated. It doesn't sound like an individual that wants to come out of his shell. It's like he went and retreated back into a place where he just feels comfortable hiding behind people, and that's not good. Twins tell CJ, yeah, let me say something. That's why CJ know things too. I don't think people realize that you think the twins, they're old enough to speak when they come over. CJ So Cool's house, and when they go over their dad's house, they're gonna say that, oh, this is the living environment that I'm in. Oh, you know that we all share a room. Oh, you know that we all have to eat like this. You know that we all have this. They're going to tell. And also, when CJ So Cool calls them on their tablet and they FaceTime, it's the same thing. I don't see her posting it. Don't mean she's on. No, I don't. Let me tell you what I always say. I know a lot of people saying she's homeless. She's not homeless. Being homeless doesn't mean you don't have no roof over your head. She stays with her mom in that two-bedroom apartment. That's what she says. Well, I'll put it like this: when the kids were with CJ, they were in school. He checked their grades. He watched throughout the years. Even Royalty was more so up on their homework, and you saw more of a structure in that household. So if you was able to watch them as they grew up over the years, over the 9 years they were on YouTube, you would have saw that the kids were actually doing the homework at the table. He was making sure that they was doing this at 30. It was cleaning up. You had to clean up daily. They had chores, but now you don't see no chores. You don't see nobody saying nothing over there. So at the end of the day, it was more structure. Structure means that people have things for you in place that you have to do before you're able to do anything else. I started to be unhappy. Nah, there was no videos. If you watch every video, there was no video of Leon being unhappy around CJ. There's not one video of that. If you have a video where Leon was around CJ So Cool and he was unhappy, there's no video like that exists. There's no video like that. And no, teenagers change, but that doesn't mean you retreat into a place where you become introverted and you do not speak and you're antisocial and you go from one thing to another. Let me tell you what something is. If you have children, you watch your kids grow up, right? If you watch your kids grow up, nine times out of 10, your kids remain the same. They might have a little bit of change because they start getting, their hormones and etc. But one thing about your children, if you had a shy kid when they're little, 9 times out of 10, they might come out of that shell a little bit, but they're not going to be completely, talkative. But if you had a kid that was always funny since they were a freaking baby, they're going to be a funny joker when they get older. So 9 times out of 10, yes, teenagers change, but they don't do a dramatic change. They might try to find themselves. They might change up their friend groups. They might do things like that, but they're not going to retreat back and be antisocial. And not going to be an individual that's literally just shelled. That's the difference. I watch my students change. Let me tell you something. Students, anytime, like I told you before, when you're dealing with children when they're growing up, especially from middle school to high school. You got people that are going to a new school around new people. That doesn't mean a person has changed. That means they haven't adapted to their environment. People need to adapt into their environment. It's like you're going from one job to the next. If you have one job, you could have been this social individual at one job. When you go to the next job, it's because the culture, the environment is not going to allow you to be that way at first because you're trying to fill out everybody. But once you start coming into your own, you might be like, you know what, I can talk to these people here, talk to these people there, but I'm not going to run my mouth too much at that job. That's the same way in life when it comes to kids. People just don't understand social dynamics. Social dynamics is when children tend to adapt to their environment, adapt to people around them, and then it might put peer pressure on them to be a certain way, which will not that doesn't mean that they change. That means that they're trying to adapt into an environment that is filled with uncertainties. That's what that goes into. But that's why you got to understand that dynamics when it comes down to church, and they don't change dramatically like that. That's crazy. Anybody that sees that will know, and anybody as a teacher, I have teachers in my family, I have people that I haven't raised. I don't. It doesn't work like that. But you don't know for sure. He's saying that. No, at the end of the day, you can tell. Let me tell you what's funny. You can tell when a person does not want to show their background in terms of her. She's used to walking around kitchens talking. She's used to walking around living rooms. She's used to doing certain things. And you notice that she always records in front of a wall. Always a wall behind her. There's always a wall behind her. And when you see that white wall, you'll notice one thing. She's never going to turn that camera the opposite way or have the kids. It's either she's recording by the white wall or she's outside at the park or she's eating at a fast food restaurant. She's not showing anything else. And plus, CJ would know because the twins are over there. So CJ would know where she stays at. Don't put no. No, that's not lies on image. That's for sure. All you got to do is use context clues and use logic. If you're a logical thinking person, you would know better. But a person that don't have no logic, you won't know. But it's none of your business too to be on my life. I don't understand what certain people like. You gotta understand something. It's none of your business to be on my live on my channel. Another aspect. Would you show your background for people to bash you? The twins can get easily persuaded. Well, I'll put it this way. When it comes down to the twins and any situation, if you want to make people think about it, you broadcast your life for money. You using your platform as a means for money. That means you should be able to show everything around you. You should be able to show everything around you. You shouldn't have to hide it. That's the aspect of something different. You shouldn't have to hide it. But if you're hiding your background, you're consistently recording where there's just a white wall behind you. That means that is a big difference between what you're used to and what you're now trying to accept. That's the reality that she does not want to accept. That's why she's recording by a wall. The twins are not a value source. Well, shoot, I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Twins are not a value source. I'll put it like this: they were better off, and I would say this as a mother. What she should do: CJ offered her to literally make content, make content, and make money. So if you want to make money for your church and put them in a better place, she needs to suck it up and make money and just keep on pushing. That's the best thing she can do. Make money with CJ and just ball out. That's what I would do, especially if you know your kids are suffering. That's what I would do personally. Well, then CJ not together, Dad. Move on. You don't know what she got going on. Hey, she don't know what CJ got going on in his life. That's another aspect. It don't matter what somebody got. What we do know what's going on in her life is that her kids are not, you know, having the same lifestyle that they're used to. Royalty need to get forward. She can't boss. Nah, she can't boss up on her own because number one, they built a dynasty, a kingdom together. When you build something together, the internet, regardless of who you are, that's like Meek and King. Once they separated, the views are not going to be viewing the same. It's not going to be the same thing. It's the same aspect. All these are personal. When you look at it from a different perspective, royalty cannot boss up because she doesn't even have the same level of drive that CJ So Cool has, or any other content creator. She literally said it on the live stream before that she doesn't even have the motivation to do it. So, and she literally has the So Cool kids that she can, supposedly get views from, and you're literally not making content with them. That's just so a lot right there. Look, it doesn't matter. Like I said, at the end of the day, that is not a good option for her kids to be on school because it's showing too a lack of respect. It's showing a lack of social skills. It's actually in a situation where somebody can be truly hands-on. Most people that can be truly hands-on with their children and that can give them the social skills necessary in order to navigate this life, that's beneficial. But when you're in an environment where it's just not, then it's just gonna end up, you're gonna see it. It's gonna protrude out of people over and over again. You're gonna see it. Yeah, exactly. She doesn't even put the grind in order to get to that level. In order, she doesn't have the necessary skill set to even teach her kids. When you're at home school, you got to be hands on with your kids. You got to be truly hands on. And remember one thing as well: Royalty did not even come close to finishing high school. She didn't even go to college at all. So there's no way in hell that she can teach her kids anything. And I don't know where people make up in their mind that somebody can magically just start teaching their kids something if you never finished high school, if you never went to college. There's no way that you can teach someone. You have to have the accolades. You got to have things behind you in order to do that. Nah, Royalty cannot be a CJ. Royalty can't be CJ because she, like I said before, she doesn't have the drive. She doesn't have the motivation. She doesn't have the creativity in order to do it. Yeah, but you talking about a phenom. Let's talk about Beyonce, a phenom. You know what a phenom is? A phenom is an individual that has talent from birth. That's something that Royalty doesn't have near the talent as Beyonce. That's like comparing, like, that's nonsense. No, 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 no. You cannot compare no Beyonce to a Royalty. That is craziness. All right, let me see. Like, no, you know what I know? I know logic and I know common sense. So, and you can tell based off her environment. And then obviously the person that's in it, you can tell like by the background. You know, it's always tell people to do when y'all go to her page and she drops a video, just do yourself a favor. Just go on the video and just tell her when she go live, to go live inside her house. And that'll shut up everybody. If you broadcast your life, if you monetize your life, people should be able to see your background because you monetize it. And it's not putting down no one. I'm putting down. See, this is where I always say, this is how you know you're dealing with individuals that have no logic. If you're dealing with truth, it's not about putting down no one. It's about the betterment of children. If you're sitting there and you're allowing kids to suffer because you have a personal vendetta against somebody you don't even know. You know how somebody say you putting down someone, y'all don't know. See, you don't know CJ personally. Nobody on here has spoke to CJ in person. Just like nobody in here spoke to or lived with Royalty. If you spoke with and you live with Royalty, if you live with her, then you should be able to have more of a concrete thing to say about both, because that means that you live with both of them. You are literally an occupant in one of their places. That means that you know them. And if you know them like that, you can't speak on one and not speak on the other. It's coming in Royalty was all these things that CJ said going on with Royalty and the kids, don't you think? No. All right, let's use your logic back at you that you just said that. That's ending with podcast. If CJ was all those things, I'm gonna read it to you in the opposite way now. If CJ was all those things that Royalty said about him, don't you think Royalty would have full custody? You see how I gotta throw that back at you? You see how I threw that back at you? You said if Royalty was all those things, when CPS say the kids, if CJ was all those things, don't you think CPS would have took the kids from him as well? He would be in jail. Use your logic, man. Use your logic. Use your logic. No, that don't make no sense. They've been CPS is the least of her worries. Look what happened with CJ. You got a whole investigation that went on against you, and the detective. Use logic. All right, let's see. Society is built on materialistic things. Nah, to be honest with you, that's an outlook of people based off of their own trauma. A lot of people do not view the world that way in materialistic ways or in frivolous or trivial ways. They do not. A lot of people do not view the world materialistically. There's a lot of spiritual people out there. There's a lot of people that believe in God. There's a lot of people that literally put their best foot forward to be a spiritual individual. They don't look at materialistic things. That's like a monolith. You know, you're looking at life from a monolith point of view. I agree with her. She doesn't. She don't. She, well, need to show. Like that's just silliness. Like at the end of the day, just like CJ don't need. It's funny how people say. I always say it like this: if you got to say one, you got to say the other, right? So if you say one thing, say the other. Nah, that's not at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you got to say you can't say one without the other. If you're gonna say, oh, somebody that's doing this and this to their kids, Shad, CPS took it from them, but then on the other side, they don't have CPS taking the kids from them. You got to look at it from both angles. You can't think just one sided. That's how you know you're a biased thinker when you only can think one sided. CJ and Ron themselves from trauma, they are not perfect. Does not. Yeah, like I said before, they both are imperfect. I always been saying this from the very beginning. Both CJ and Royalty, both of them are shitty individuals that need to make themselves better. Both of them. Not one, both. But at the end of the day, when somebody else has a better predicament, a better situation that's more suitable for your children, then obviously you got to choose the latter. You got to choose the latter. That's just that's common sense. If you only think one way, and I'm always gonna tell people, if you're gonna throw something out there, you better be able to, look at it from the other perspective as well. Well, that's your opinion as well. So we're gonna keep saying it again to you. That's your opinion as well. Remember that. That's your opinion. I have students that only wear green. Hey, let me tell you something. That don't matter in life. That's them. I don't know what that is with your students, but hey, people gotta understand something. An outward look in life, a lot of people can think one way, and a lot of people can think another way. That doesn't mean that that's the majority. Some situations are subjective. Some situations are subjective, not objective. Oh, let's see how they explain the reason why. See, Lo, why you keep telling me what royalty explained? It's like, dude, do you know what CJ explained too? It's like I've never seen a person like this that thinks so one-sided. All they do is keep saying royalty. That means you know the Bible always say the simple believe anything. It's like you can tell when a person is fanned out because all they do is say what they believe one person said and don't believe what the other person said. It doesn't make any sense. Like, make that make sense. Yeah, children do need love and structure. Children do need love and structure. That is apparent. But just like I said before, when you look at the situation with Leon and you look at it from that perspective, you'll notice one thing is that Leon is not receiving the necessary skill set and tools needed to be and become a man. That's one aspect. And I think a lot of people that discuss these matters, and this is what we have to look at in society. A lot of people are growing up in single mother households and they're acting like it's healthy. It is not healthy to be in single mother household. It is not healthy for a young man or young women at all to be in single parent household. That is not the way God intended it. That is not the way a household should be. It should be a man and a woman, and they should be raising kids together, and they can have that duality, that balance, that feminine and masculine energy. If you don't have it, you start to become unstable. That's why a lot of individuals that grow up in life, they start thinking, oh, it was okay for me to be this way. Then you start realizing why you have shortcomings in this area, you have shortcomings in that area. It's like you can't have it like that. Royalty will beg. Hey, I don't know if she's gonna do any begging. I don't think she's gonna do any begging. I do think it's gonna get to a point where she's like everybody else does. The fortunate thing about this day and age is that you get to see people go through a lot because we in the digital age. Back then, You'll see people get divorced and you'll no longer know what happened to them years later. Nowadays on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, when people go get a divorce, now you can literally see years down the line if that person was happy with the decision they made. And actually are they life, excelling or declining. And now you can tell. So with royalty, you're starting to see where a lot of people were trying to hide back then. Now you can see a person, they got a divorce or they separated. Now look at their life. Now look at it. Now, hey, just like I can say, I'm gonna say that person, Betty, I'm gonna say this too. Royalty's a liar, and she's been proven to be a liar. So we got to remember, we got to do it on both sides. Yeah, CJ could be a liar, but royalty's a liar as well. See, I always say you got to keep it on both. You can't. My thing is this: I don't care if it's two different individuals. I don't give a damn if they have two different platforms. I don't care if they have two different belief systems. What matters to me is what's proven. What's proven. They've been proven to both lie. Both of them. Been banging for 3 years. Yeah, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't give a damn what somebody. I'm looking at one aspect: the kids. When you see kids that went from one place in life to another, that's when you got to start putting all the bullshit to the side and realize that your kids need a better situation and a better life. If people don't put their kids in the forefront, that's where the issue start to persist, because you care more about your emotional state than you care about your kids' well-being. That is a big issue. You see right from wrong. Exactly. You gotta see right from wrong. You can't anybody that let me tell you what a lot of people do. Based off of their bias intent and their bias motives, they will let logic go out the window. Most people let logic go out the window, one ear and out the other, because they so hell bent on being envious or jealous or mad at somebody that they don't even give a. Let me tell you something. Even a wicked person can say something truthful. Even a good person has evil in them. See, we live in a world where everybody is imperfect and people got to strive for that. You got to strive for that. No, I'm not going off of no materialistic things. See, that's where you're wrong, Jay. I don't know if you just came in here, but that's not what I'm going off. I'm not going off it. I'm going off of morale. I'm going off the code of ethics. I'm going off of individuals showing signs of disassociating themselves with reality, being antisocial, being introverted. A person that came from an environment where they were able to flourish has nothing to do with that. Even the Bible says money is a defense. Even the Bible says money is a defense. It's not everything. It's definitely not everything at all. But a position in which you are able to be comfortable does matter, especially for children. You shouldn't bring children into this world if you're unable to provide for them. That's a silly question by saying that. No, it's about whether or not you're able to provide for your children. Why are you having children in this world and you can't even get a decent roof over their head? You can't even feed them properly every night. You don't even have the resources to make sure that when they turn 18, they can have a college fund, that they're able to, get their first house because you pay for it. But you bringing children to the world to suffer so they can work like you. That's why we live in an environment where people will literally let their kids suffer because they have a problem. Come on, man. That's nonsense. A lot of people suffer from loneliness and they have children just so they can fulfill that emptiness inside of them. And then you wonder why your kids suffer in life and they gotta work just like you or help you pay bills. Your kids should not be helping you pay bills. Your kids should not be doing any of that. The Bible said children should not lay up for their parents. You should not be ever taking care of your parent or helping them with a bill. Your parents should be providing you with a house. Should be paying for your college. Should be paying for your business, not the other way around. I don't know like what you're saying, but you don't even make any sense what you just wrote there. I don't know what she was talking about. But let me see. People have children and get food stamps. Exactly. People have children and get on Section 8, and then they want to act like everything is all good when you got the government assisting you because a man cannot be in the household. In order to get Section 8, a man can't be in the household. To get food stamps, you got to put the man on child support, which creates a strained relationship between you and the mother or between the man and the woman. And then therefore the children suffer because they're not able to have that duality in the household. They're not able to have both parents. And then now the mom is against the father, and then he can't even see his kids, and then they're putting all this shit in the kids' head. saying that dad is this and the third, and then when the kid turn 18 years old, they want to go seek their father out. That's the nonsense. Then you finally gonna hear the side of your father after all those years and be like, "Oh, your mom kept me away from you, and she was gatekeeping the kids." Look at royalty. Let me tell you how crazy this is. This is what people don't want to think about, right? You have royalty who had 3 kids with an individual who she said wasn't even a man. How long did it take her to find out that he wasn't a man? What, after the third child? She knew that from the first child. She knew he was a degenerate from the very beginning. She knew he wasn't intelligent from the very beginning. So why did you have 3 kids with an individual who you know that couldn't provide for your children? 3 of them. That means 9 months each. And you mean to tell me you didn't know that this person wasn't shit and you're working 2, 3 jobs to take care of your kids while sleeping on an air mattress on the floor? People gotta I think people don't wanna think. I think people don't really care about anything. They just wanna see somebody else suffer. That's all. That's really what it fuck logic. They just wanna see everybody else suffer. So you know this how do you know that she can't feed? No, let me tell you something. When you come from an environment where you're flourishing, where you're able to have a life of abundance, a lot of people will never have a life of abundance. A lot of people will never put themselves out there, sacrifice enough in order to have enough money in order to say they're comfortable. A lot of people live check to check. Let me tell you what the difference is. If you come from an environment where you're able to thrive, you're able to have whatever you want, you experience that in your life. A lot of people will never experience that ever. So that means if you are fortunate enough to ever be in that situation, understand one thing. If you literally go from having that to having nothing, to having just scrapes from the bottom of the barrel, that is going to take a mental toll. You even see celebrities that have a hard time adjusting to life once they fall out and file for bankruptcy. So what you think that does to a child when you go from one point of having this, that, and the third, and you go from that to having minuscule? You got to think about that. People don't think about the psychological aspect that happens when a child goes from one thing to the next, especially if they're old enough to remember. It's a big difference. If you're old enough to remember, that means that as a child, you're gonna know how that feels when it's gone from you, when it's relinquished. Yeah, rich people. Yes, you got, but let me tell you what the difference is. We're not talking about people that have money, but they don't have no fulfillment in their life. That's why I told you. That's what I'm telling everybody from the very beginning. Money is not happiness. Money has to come with spirituality and truth. Money has to come with God. That's why if you get money in the aspect of having God in your life, it's going to be fulfilled. But if you don't have it, then obviously it's going to be a life of emptiness because only so far materialistic things can do for you. It's an empty void. Remember, the flesh is always one thing, it's never satisfied. You got to remember that. The flesh is never satisfied. I will laugh, family and love. I love to laugh. Now, let me tell you something. I will like the Bible says, money is a defense. And he said, I will give. He said, I will give a man all the hidden treasures of darkness. Let me tell you something. Everything a man have is in his hand. That's like when you listen to Job. Job was a man that had a lot of abundance, and God tested him. That was a testimony for all of us in our lives to see that, you know what, things can be taken away from you at any given moment spontaneously. But as long as you have faith and you aspire to do good and you stay on the straight and narrow path, guess what? You can get it back. That's why he said, I'll open up the floodgates. People think life is supposed to be a life of like having nothing or happiness. No, God wants you to have his spirituality, his spirit come upon you, to be renewed in the mind, have peace, love, and a sound mind, and also have a life of abundance. So you don't need to go to that person and that person. He wants you to have a life of abundance. Yes, you got to have a life of abundance. People just think it's about being broke or being that. No, being broke and happy. God don't want you. You really think God wants you to be broke and happy? Come on, man. I don't know what type of God people serve, but that is not real. God does not want you broke. He said, I will open up the floodgates. I will pour out my spirit. Let me say, pour out his spirit. People don't not understand. Like, it's like people don't understand. He said, man, you got to tie it to the storehouse. He want people to eat. You don't want people sitting out here starving. Come on, man. Like you said, money is a defense. The wisdom is a defense. Read your Bible. Money is a defense. Wisdom is a defense. Why would you just sit up and tell somebody I'd rather be? No, I would. I don't want to be broke. and happy. I wanna have money and be happy and have spirituality and truth. I don't wanna just have one thing. Come on, man, that don't make sense. God is love, and God is a father of giving. He gives. Shoot, if he ain't giving you gifts, spiritual gifts, if he ain't giving you resources, he ain't giving you this, then you need to get yourself right with God. That's why I got best friends. Nah, that's not. Let me tell you something. Just because you in a relationship, just because somebody, God didn't ordain her to get with CJ. When does God ordain anybody to lay down with a man and have 3 kids and then leave that man and get with another man? God wasn't in that relationship from the get go. I think people be thinking God didn't give her no strength. God didn't give her the strength to do any of that. You think God gave her the strength to have 3 kids out of wedlock? So God gave her the meaning she has a license to sin. She has the ability to not be married, have 3 kids when she's damn 16 years old, and to go out there and work and do this, that, and the third, and be with a degenerate guy that doesn't have the ability to lead or instruct or nothing. God never said for a woman to get with an ungodly man. Bible actually says, give to the godly man. Give to the godly man. So if you were an individual that's not even godly, why would you even have 3 children with a man that doesn't have any spirituality? He was actually quite slow. If you listen to him talk, I don't even understand why people can just forego and forget somebody's past and think that's okay. No, it was God didn't ordain her to have 3 kids, just like God didn't ordain her to have that kind of life. God would rather have her betrothed, a virgin, get married, than have children with somebody who was godly, and for her to be godly as well, not the other way around. Like I said before, okay, I like what you just said there. How would she feel? You know what? Karma is a motherfucking life too. You know what happened in the future? Now, if Leon get in a situation when a woman brings up allegations against him, that's gonna be the craziest shit because she gonna remember what happened and then say that shit actually gets to the point where Leon could possibly face jail time and be in prison. She's gonna feel that shit 10 times. It's gonna be 10 times worse. That's why I always tell people gotta be careful when they say certain things. You gotta be careful when you do certain things. Ain't nobody but the law. Ain't nobody here is a lawyer. Ain't nobody here is this and that third. You got professionals that do that. That's why the professionals that did that case, they went into it. And like I always say, you got 2 people that lie. You got royalty that lie. You got CJ that lie. It doesn't make nobody else. Like, I don't know why people think just because you choose a side supposed to make somebody truthful and somebody else a liar. No, they both lie. You just chose another liar side. I look at truth. I react to the truth. So when you react to the truth, you ain't got to pick nobody's sides. You just react to the truth. Shit. If somebody else say something truthful and they can back it up and it's proven, then guess what? I can roll with that. If somebody over here say something truthful and they can back it up, I can roll with that. But once you say some shit that you can't back up and it's full of lies and deceit, then I'm gonna explore them lies and deceits. And then if somebody else say that, I'm gonna explore that. And we're gonna break it down to the goddamn molecules. What are you talking about? You make no sense. Uh, Nobody's speaking. We was giving a scenario based off what okay. If you know what okay is in the chat, there wrote that what if allegations was brought up against Leon in the future. Now we was given basically being theoretical, given a type of situation that could occur in the future. So with that, you got to look at it from perspective where somebody may have done that in the past to someone else, and then now it comes back on you. We're talking about a sense of karma. And then when you look at Jalea, right? Jalea used her situation as a weapon. She said that this little girl is going to ruin your career. I don't know if y'all know any true victims, real victims, people that actually go through devastating things. They do not speak like that. No one speaks like that. Not only that, royalty straight up lied when they did a forensic interview. Did y'all read the actual paperwork? You know what a forensic interview is? A forensic interview is when they interview every child in the household and they actually look at your body. They actually look at aspects of the home. They literally interview everyone down to the T. And royalty said she knew nothing about that. How the heck you didn't know about a forensic interview? Look up a forensic interview, and if anybody out there ever went through a forensic interview, you would know what I'm talking about. And that's what the detective research. That's why it happened in 2018. Forensic interview. That lets me know right then and there that that right there is facade. It was something that was blown up. It was something that wasn't actually true. Because forensic interview is when they interview everyone in the household from head to toe. Where they make sure that they don't leave that space until everyone is interviewed from head to toe. And that is a big difference. For her to say she had no clue about that, when you got motherfuckers that even know if their kids got detention in school, is beyond me. I mean, I'm bewildered. I'm Lenarth. All right, let's look at Royalty told the story when was together. Well, like, and you know that as well. You know, she mentioned the 2018 thing when the people came to the house, and then she turned around and said she knew nothing about it. I don't understand how people cannot see that. I don't understand how people. It just makes me laugh. Like I said, if I catch somebody lying, I catch somebody saying shit, something that's not truthful, I gotta point it out. I gotta say, hold on now. And it don't matter if it's on either side. I don't care if it's on CJ's side. I don't care if it's on Royalty side. What I care about is if you're gonna say a lie, you're not gonna be honest. You're gonna be deceitful, and therefore we're gonna have to explore those matters. That's how I look at it. But if you're gonna be authentic, you're gonna be real, you're gonna be truthful, then guess what? We can still be like, okay, they said something that was real. Just because you got a lot of people out there that's full of shit in life, just because somebody has a history of lying, but if they say that there's a sun in the sky, ask them this question. A person that has a history of lying, but if they tell you it's morning, right? And they tell you, hey, the sun is in the sky, just because they have a history of lying, if you look up and you see the sun, are you just gonna say that they're liars still? Are you gonna say I can agree that there's a sun in the sky in the morning? You know, that's why I think people tend to just, escape them. They because somebody that's on both sides. Even a liar can say something truthful. That's why I always think people have to be, you know, more invested in intellectual things rather than what's on the surface. Stop being invested in feelings and emotions. Because remember, the Bible says that the heart is deceitful beyond all things. Who can know it? So when you lead with your heart, when you lead with your emotions, you're never ever going to see anything for what it's worth. People will hate CJ, but if something happened to Royalty or kids, CJ will exactly. You know what's funny? You got CJ, he a troll, right? And the different one thing I am gonna say is that CJ is a troll. But one thing he'll say in the midst of all those videos, he still mentioned how much he loved Nation, how much he loved Jalea, how much he loved Leon, even though he's a troll. But I think that in the same sense, you won't hear those kids say that about him. And I find that even more so crazy that you got kids that you have raised since they were little. Their own father wasn't even able to be in their life. Till this day, I still think that is like crazy. It's asinine. I think it's just wild that he can't even speak to his children on the phone. Imagine having kids and this woman knew exactly what type of person you were, but then she takes them away from you and you can't even call them on the phone just to be like, hey, how you doing? Like, what I'm saying, this, that, and the third. Imagine that. That's what a lot of people can't think about. Because, like I said, I think a lot of people, I have a lot of people. Now he says it. If you look at it, if you look at the old videos, look at a lot of old videos. He said it a lot. He said it a lot. You got to look at all the videos. You got to watch a lot of. Remember, it's 9 years of content, but there's a reason why they don't like it. No, let me tell you what it is. When you're in a situation, this is why there's a lot of broken households these days, right? Because you got a lot of blended families. Unfortunately, in America, that's why God never wanted blended family. He never wanted things like that because guess what? If you're in a relationship with someone and they have kids of their own, once you break up with them, you have no legal rights to those kids. No rights. Even people that have like biological children with women can barely see their own kids when they get a divorce or when they break up. And that's their biological children. Now imagine kids that's not even yours, even though you raise them. Just imagine if you can't even you got men out there that can barely see their blood, their own flesh and blood, children. Just imagine. Now, just imagine if they are your stepchildren. You're not going to be able to see them at all. Yeah, he does need to focus on. I've been saying that since the very beginning. I believe that Kamari would have a better life altogether if she stayed permanently with CJ, at least until, college and everything of that nature. Because her being, in Gary, that's where she gets into a lot of trouble, suspensions, the wrong crowd. But when she was up there in Vegas with her father, she was at school every day. She was literally trying her best every day. She wasn't getting suspended at all. And you can see the proof is in the pudding. You can see the difference. You can tell, but I think people don't want to look at, reality. I think people want to be fueled by something because they need something in order to push their agenda or whatever aspect they're trying to convey instead of using logic and wisdom and being intellectual. They'll rather be foolish and let the blind lead the blind. Stop letting the blind lead the blind. Come out from, that one track mind and start thinking differently. Yeah, but yeah, Kamari was wilding out, when she's in Gary. And like I said before, I think her and Leon will benefit greatly from that situation. And I think, just because two people cannot be together, the saddest thing in life is when people break up, it always ends up very messy, especially when it's unfinished business. When you got unfinished business, that's why Royalty and CJ So Cool situation was terrible because you got two people that broke up that have unfinished business and still got emotions and soul ties. So when they break up, that emotion gets out of control, especially if they see them with another person or, they're not no longer trying to mess with them in that type of manner and they just want to see their kids only. That makes shit spiral out of control. It makes people start thinking, damn, you know what? This person don't want me and they don't want my kids neither, or vice versa. This always happens when relationships are too intertwined deeply, especially on a soul tie level. That's why messy breakups tend to cause the most pain and suffering. The twins also need instruction. Yeah, exactly. But remember, CJ is more. If you notice that at the house when CJ put them in school, when he had them in daycare, when he had them doing that and third, it was more so better for the twins. But when he went back over there, it wasn't in daycare no more. They wasn't doing this that third no more. And that happens a lot when people think that it's okay, especially if they don't even have that discipline in order to give structure to the children. When you look at a parent, now there's different types of parents out there. You got parents out there that can truly teach their kids, that can truly have their children on the right path, instruct them. They have a good background. Then you got parents out there that don't have it. And unfortunately for Royalty, she doesn't have that background in order to make sure that her kids can have a, good head start in life, especially academically. I don't think she has that ability, especially a person that dropped out of school and never finished high school, never went to college. If you don't have that obedience, there's no way in hell you can teach your kids at home or even help them with homework. You gotta think about that. Where is she gonna you would never see a video of Royalty, literally helping somebody solve a problem, like that, with their schoolwork. That's what I mean by having somebody that has that, ability to do so. Twins need stability, a different stepmom. Now, that's another thing that I touched on in another video. I'm glad you brought that up, Trey. I said that in another video. I said CJ bringing all those women around the kids. Yeah, even though you have them in and out, who knows what the hell's going on over there? I don't know if he paying them just to do content, but regardless of the fact, having kids in and out and having your kids be introduced to them, like I said before, it can have them grow up and have a very different type of outlook towards relationships. They may have trust issues with people. They may even have, that concept of, don't take people serious in life, and it may cause them to have relationship to relationship. These things manifest later on in life. It doesn't always happen right then and there, but when they get older and then when they start to mature and then you start to become a young adult, those things that's in your subconscious mind will manifest. That's why a lot of people end up being just like their parents unknowingly. They don't even realize they're going down the same path that their parents are going down because it's all subconscious. It's things you're literally acting out body mannerisms, things of that nature, generational curses, and you're acting it out in order to just repeat the same cycle in life. That's the craziness. But But that's all I'm saying. A lot of people, like I said, a lot of people are just biased. They just don't want to see the truth. They don't want to see anything that is outside of their own perspective, which can be very biased. But that's the life we live. But I thank all of y'all for coming on the live, and I'll be going live again probably in the next few days. So all my lives out there, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'm out of there.